Is it working? Is it working? Is it working? Oh, I hope it's working. I've got lots of people messaging me saying, am I in the right place? There's nothing happening. Okay, so I'm going to start again. Also, haven't set up the light all that well today. Oh, smooth, isn't it? So, yes, thank you again. Thanks for patience, everybody. Today I'm going to work seated. So I'm going to allow you time to go and get a chair. And in the meantime, I'll also go and get my own chair. And then I'll talk you through what we'll do to continue. So, get a chair. Okay, so thank you so much everybody for waiting, and I hope everybody has a chair. The idea is a kind of fairly solid chair, so not a chair that you would slump back into or that it would be hard to sit upright. I'm going to set my just in case alarm as usual. I didn't manage to do that in advance today. So just in case alarm at 4:45 today because of the troubles beginning. I'll still aim to finish about 4:50. And yeah, just if you're not familiar with this practice, if you're joining for the first time, the little bit of info that I think is nice to share every time, assuming that not everybody reads the written kind of guidelines before tuning in. It's really my own kind of hybrid practice that I am honoured to share with you. And a lot of it is drawing on Feldenkrais and developing the Feldenkrais movements and methods. It's really, really important that this isn't a class, I can't see you. And regardless of that, really, taking the kind of Feldenkrais practice as inspiration, really, you know your body best anyway, and this is just an invitation to explore your body in movement and get whatever you can out of it and do whatever you need and follow pleasure and curiosity, and we'll try and kind of let go of ideas about correct or what's right or what's wrong, because really, as long as you are doing what you want and what feels good, the practice is developing listening to your own body, so that your own body can be the guide about what's right and wrong, rather than somebody else telling you. So get rid of the idea of teacher as guru, and just take this as a structure within which you can explore and hopefully have a bit of a nice time, have a little physical reset. Today is a bit more obviously postural than some other days, but you'll see. Let's start. So come to sitting on your chair. I'll take a bit of depth so you can see me hopefully. And sit towards the edge of the chair. So that you can have your feet kind of squarely on the ground and your legs move easily. So if I was sat back in my chair, my legs would be a little bit more stuck to the side, to the seat of the chair. And my back would be less mobile because I'd be resting back against the back of the chair. So I'm sitting towards the edge of the chair. By the way, I also more or less tried to do the whole thing in the first person. So I'm talking it through for myself, and you just do whatever feels good for you. So I'm going to start sitting. Oh, touching my face. Don't touch your face. Ah. I'm just sitting and I'm going to close my eyes to start with. For me, always a little challenge to let go of tech dramas when I start. By the time I start the practice, I always need the practice more because of all the tech trauma that precedes it. So I start by letting go and just accepting what's possible day by day. And I just sit and I close my eyes and I tune into this kind of soft focus, a type of attention that can drift, take in what's going on around me, take in what I can notice in my own body. And as I'm sitting, I try to gradually release more and more, even though I notice that by doing that, I start to slip into what would be observed as perhaps less good posture. So just try to let myself relax. And as I relax, I notice that my posture changes. I just see if I can gradually let go of the things that I'm holding. For me, that means I notice the shape of my back changing, the shape of my belly changing. I notice the shape of my chest softening. I notice my hips releasing. I really just let gravity let me melt a little bit. I open my eyes, letting my head let go of the horizontal if relaxing means lowering my head, which for me it does in this instance. I'm just trying to let go of tension. And the longer I sit, the more I tune into where I'm holding a certain effort or a certain tightness in my muscles, the more I then can let go. So personally today, when I started this, I did not expect to end up in such a position. So if you're looking at me, again, like I said, don't take what I'm doing as an example. For me, this is unexpected today. So wherever I am, I just come back to sitting upright. So I am then trying to sit again on the edge of my chair. I try to find the place where my tailbone and the crown of my head are furthest away from each other. That's the place where ideally I would love to be able to just be there without any effort. But for me today, that takes effort. So I come into that place, trying to make my spine as long as possible without getting rid of its natural curves. Still trying to let go of as much tension as possible. I'm still trying to be here without too much tension, too much effort. But I'm making just enough effort to remain vertical, to look for the place where my head, the crown of my head, is as far away from the tailbone as possible, where my tailbone and my sitting bones, I can feel my sitting bones on the chair, where my sitting bones are as far away from the crown of my head as possible, with the least effort possible. And I just lift both arms up towards the ceiling and I notice what that does to my posture. And then I lower my arms down again. And all I'm doing, I repeat it, all I'm doing is seeing what it's like to lift my arms without prescribing how I do that. So again, I'm not demonstrating how to do that correctly. I'm just doing my own exploration about what does it feel like to sit, to make only as much effort as I need to make to maintain a long, more or less neutral alignment of the spine, and reach my arms up. And as I reach my arms up, I'm not trying to stop my alignment from changing. So I know that if I did this like it was a Pilates exercise, I would stop the alignment of my spine from changing when I lift my arms overhead. So I'm going to do that a few times actually. I'm going to just make that clearer for myself. I'm going to gently draw my belly in. Imagine my belly gently sliding up under my ribs. I'm imagining my ribs staying down, connected over my belly to my hips. I'm trying to release tension in the neck and shoulders and stay wide across the collarbones. And I'm going to float my arms up to the side like a Pilates exercise. My arms float up to the side, and I very mindfully keep my ribs down, and I keep the alignment of my spine the same, and then I press my arms down again. I just do that a few times. I try to lift and lower my long arms until my hands are above my head. I know the video isn't catching it, but my palms are facing each other in line with my shoulders above my head. And I'm doing that, I'm noticing how much effort it takes to keep my ribs down, to keep my spine long, not to change my alignment as I lift and lower my arms. And then I just let that go and I rest a moment. Letting go of any residual tension from that exercise. And then in whatever way I want, again, without restricting the movement of the spine, the belly, the chest, the shoulders, anything, I just reach my arms up and I see what's different. What's the difference between that and this kind of Pilates version I just did? So for me, I notice my belly sticking out, my chest sticking out, my back arches a little bit around T12, around my mid-back. And I also notice that I want to bend my arms up rather than out to the side. I notice that the alignment of my neck changes. I notice that my pelvis rolls a little bit on the seat. I notice I can reach higher if I want to. I can stretch a little bit higher. But I also notice that that's actually me putting in a little bit more effort, so I just chill out a little bit. I make it simpler again, and I come back to the intention of just sitting with a long spine and reaching my arms up. And I do that a last time just because I want to notice out loud the alignment of my shoulders as well. So for me, something's going on in my shoulders where my hands are actually completely facing different directions when I lift them above my head. I'm not forcing what happens. I'm just noticing that when I lift my arms up, I'm going to lower them down for the camera actually. Basically, my hands are like that. And I chill out. And I'm going to rest by sitting back in my chair. I'm aware of needing something quite simple today. I'm going to progress from here, but I'm also just sort of accepting that there's a lot of complicated stuff going on. And sometimes it's really nice just to make life a little bit simpler to start with. So I come back to sitting and I close my eyes again. I'm sitting on the edge of my chair again. And I'm just going to put myself in my upright posture. I'm still doing it with as little tension as possible, as little effort as possible, but I am moving myself into what I would consider to be correct posture. If I was teaching a Pilates lesson, I would be kind of correcting people, encouraging people to find a length in the spine, a certain releasing but lengthening. It takes a little bit of effort for me. From that posture, I'm just going to do a series of relaxations by focusing my attention into different parts of the body. So I'm going to start by keeping my sitting bones exactly as they are on the seat, my belly and back exactly as it is, my chest and shoulders exactly as they are. But I'm just taking my attention into my head, and I'm going to start by trying to relax my jaw. I'm now as upright as I can be in what I would call as close to a correct posture as I am able to be in. Sitting upright, sitting to attention. But I'm completely relaxing my jaw when I stop talking, at least. As I relax my jaw, I can relax my tongue in my mouth. And I feel that it also changes slightly what's going on in my neck. And I try to move my eyes into a soft focus. So regardless of whether I have my eyes open or closed, I'm now trying to maintain a sort of soft focus, a type of focus with the eyes that uses the peripheral vision. And I am now gormless for camera. And then I'm just going to rest back, sitting back in my chair and chilling out for a moment. Somebody fed back to me recently how the smaller stuff is so hard. I think it was after a Friday lesson where I was doing a much straighter Feldenkrais lesson rather than a kind of movement exploration. And yeah, the small stuff is so challenging. It's just so easy to do more and work harder and push. And it's so hard to do less and allow that smallness or the softness or the giving up or the taking a rest, taking a break. Blech. I come back to sitting. I put myself in my best posture. And I do the same things I did before. Once I'm in my best posture, I just release the muscles of my face, my eyes and my jaw and my tongue. And I notice as I do that, already something changes in the musculature of my torso. Already I'm a little bit more able to relax elsewhere whilst staying upright. So just relax my face, my tongue, my eyes, my jaw. And automatically it relaxes my neck a little bit, the muscles of my torso and my hip. And from here, I'm going to go to the other end of my torso. I'm going to go to my hips. And I'm just going to put my hand on my lower belly and my lower back. And I'm going to see if I can just release any tension in my lower belly or my lower back. So that again, it obliges me to give up any good idea of posture. I'm just giving up, giving up, giving up. It means I have to listen to where does my body want to go. This will be to do with my own musculature, to do with how I've been using my body throughout my life, to do with how I'm feeling today. It will be different for everybody. I just let go. It's so challenging to let go in the lower belly. I change my hands around. I see, can I release in my hip joints anymore? And I see what's my posture like now. And then I build myself up again. I'm going to come back into my best posture. And I'm going to reach my arms up above my head. I'm going to try and keep myself long, so I'm trying not to arch. I'm just trying to keep myself in my correct alignment. Nice gap between my shoulders and my ears. Reaching up, drawing my belly in. I'm also stretching through my fingers so that all of my fingers and thumbs are long. I stay here and breathe. I'm going to close my eyes. And I'm just going to melt. I'm going to melt from the top of me, which is the tips of my fingers. And I'm melting. I let my fingers slowly, slowly, slowly melt. I feel the rhythm of it. I feel that my fingers go releasing the tension in my fingers is challenging. It doesn't happen so smoothly. I realize I've come out of my correct posture in my torso and I have to recover that, and I continue to take my attention to my fingers and I just let them release, and when they can't release anymore, I realize that I'm ready to move down to the palms of my hands. As soon as I move down to the palms of my hands, my wrists start to release. The rotation of my hands changes as my wrists release. And I start to let my elbows bend and my arms soften. And it's not possible for me to let my elbows bend and melt without me also then starting to let my shoulders melt. And I let my shoulders melt and my arms melt. My arms melt and melt and melt and melt and melt until eventually my arms just come down to my side. I see what it feels like to have my arms down by my side, hanging after that melt. And then I let it continue. I let my arms, the weight of my arms, pull me down. I try to release my neck. I try to release my spine. And now I'm intentionally allowing my back to just go anywhere. I'm not trying to melt in a straight line. I'm trying to melt in whatever direction I happen to bend or tilt or fall. And I just melt and melt and melt and melt and melt, taking my attention down through my spine. For me, this means I've ended up with my head down between my legs, and I'm also having to change the alignment of my feet on the floor as I melt. And I continue to melt. I take my attention into my hips. Can I release any more in my hips? And for me, if I release any further, if I melt any further now, I'm actually going to come off my chair. So I'm going to stop. I'm going to come back to sitting. And I'm just going to sit upright with as little effort as possible and see what it feels like to sit now. And I'm going to do it again. I'm going to sit a little bit further back in my chair, so I still want my legs free, but I just learnt that time that I was too far forwards and I was going to fall off my chair at the end. But I'm still not sitting back against my chair, against the back of the chair. And I'm reaching my arms up. I'm actually going to, I think I'm going to come to standing. You won't be able to see my head on camera. I'm going to come to standing. And again, I'm standing in what I would call correct posture. I'm just doing my best to work on my alignment. I'm going to start from my fingertips. My fingertips are melting and melting and melting. And then the palms of my hands and my knuckles and my wrists are melting. And I don't dictate the direction, and I'm not symmetrical because I'm not symmetrical. And my elbows are melting, and then my arms start to melt. And as my arms melt, my shoulders melt, my chest starts to melt. And I feel the weight of my body dropping, and I start to let everything else melt. I'm not trying to control it so that it's hard work in the muscles. I'm trying to be soft and softer and softer. And I'm not dictating how I melt, but I notice my knees going and my legs aren't even. And then my body comes forwards and I'm melting now, forwards, leaning, leaning. And I just melt, 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 melt. And then I come back up to sitting. And I rest in sitting, just sitting, and I see how it feels. All the time, I'm trying to practice this soft focus of awareness where I can think about my fingers, for example, but at the same time, I can feel if I have tension creeping into my waistline or my toes. I could be actively thinking about my wrists and noticing how my wrists turn as I melt. But at the same time, I'm noticing if I could release my belly, or I'm noticing if that changes anything in the weight of my feet on the ground. So I'm really trying to have this kind of global awareness of my whole self. And that includes also how I'm feeling, what thoughts are coming into my mind as I'm doing it. I just try to sense myself here and sitting while I rest, and I'm going to stand up and I'm going to do it again. So I make sure that I'm sitting enough in my chair before I come to standing so that I know that when I melt, I end up sitting on the chair securely. And I come up. I'm going to have my feet a little bit wider than hip width because I know that's better for me once I'm sitting. Other than that, I'm drawing my belly in. I'm keeping my ribs down. I'm in my best posture, let's say, but with my arms above my head. I'm trying to have my arms in line with my ears. I'm stretching through my fingers. My palms are facing each other. This is quite strong. I'm going to just push my feet into the floor and draw my belly in a little bit harder, and so that I can really feel the musculature of my whole body. Anybody who wants to could stretch the fingers higher so that the shoulders don't stay wide anymore, but they come up as if training handstand, keeping the ribs down. And I'm trying to now do a global softening. Everything. Can I just melt everything at once? My fingers, my wrists, my bottom, my belly, my knees, my biceps. This changes everything for me. I realize I'm bending backwards now. My knees melt, my ankles melt. Everything starts melting. I'm wonky, I'm lopsided. I'm folding in the hips as I melt. My weight goes forwards, I'm melting and melting and melting. Until my back is lengthening and I'm hanging down again. And I notice while I'm hanging down if I have any tension left anywhere. Can I release it? My jaw, my hips, my belly. And I come back to sitting. I sit on the edge of my chair and I just see what does it feel like to sit now. How possible is it to be upright with as little effort as possible? And I'm going to use touch, just checking the time. For the rest of the session today, I'm going to use touch as a means of exploring movement. And I'm going to start with my hands on my own head. And I'm just going to close my eyes. And I'm feeling the shape of my own scalp. And the way that I touch myself really informs what I can notice. So when I touch myself, I try to communicate something clearly with my hands, whether that is working out the shape of the skull, whether it's with pressure or lightly. And with my hands on my head, I just explore, using my hands to help me, a little bit of movement of the head itself. Turning, twisting, looking up. So it's not that I'm completely passive in my neck. It's not that I'm carrying all of the weight of my head with my hands, but I'm trying to release enough in the chest and shoulders and be soft so that I can drive my own head, I can manipulate my own head with my hands. If I can keep my eyes soft and my jaw released and my tongue released, and it's much easier for my neck to release. I can use my hair as well to move my head. And I know that as long as I go so slowly and so softly, and I don't do any big or sudden or extreme movements, then actually there's so much mobility in my neck, but it just needs to go gently. I let my eyes open and close, and I just explore what's possible. And I rest my arms down and I just sit. And I just look around a little bit with my eyes open, just to see where I can look, what it feels like to look around me now without my head on my hands. How can I be free in my chest, be free in my jaw and neck? And I bring my hands up again and I hold my own scalp with my hands. And this time I move my head and I do the work with my head and not with my arms. And my arms are just following. So where can I look? I'm just exploring, where can I look? Anywhere. And the reason my hands are here is because if I keep my hands fixed on my skull and then I use my eyes to look around me to explore where my head can go, then if I keep my elbows wide and my hands fixed in the same place so my hands aren't sliding on my head, then suddenly huge movements are obliged to happen in my chest, my spine, my belly, and I'm just exploring where can I go with my hands fixed on my head like this and my bottom on the chair. So my pelvis can roll and twist, my belly can roll and twist, my ribs can roll and twist, and I'm just doing a little free movement exploration. Where do I feel that my chest wants to open more? Can I feel any more movement in my top ribs, right underneath the collarbones? I'm trying to let my breath be free and release my jaw. These small things, it's really easy to start letting tension into the neck, shoulders. So I'm just all the time aware that I could release more. Where can I release to open? Where can I wriggle a little millimeter, a degree more opening or rotation into my top vertebra, right at the base of my neck, C2 or 3. Sorry, T2 or 3. These top thoracic vertebrae that just get stuck. I'm trying to pay attention to my upper back. And I rest in sitting. I just let my arms come down. I let my arms hang and I just feel what it's like to sit now. And then I'm going to use my hands going down my legs. And I just put my feet and my pelvis anywhere comfortable. And I'm using my hands going down my legs to explore where my hands can go. And I try to keep it symmetrical to start with. And I can use not just my hands on my own body, but my hands on the chair. So can my hands reach up around the back of the chair? How can I hold on to the chair? All the time, I'm only doing what's possible. Where can my hands go? What's interesting for me isn't what my hands can do so much, but it's what can I get, what parts of myself can I access through this constraint of having my hands in contact with something and symmetrical all the time. So I'm just using symmetry to touch my own back, my own chest, my own face, my own head. Staying symmetrical and keeping in contact with something all the time. How far can I reach forward? How far can I reach the floor between the legs of the chair, under the chair? What happens if I put my feet together? I've brought my feet together. I can hold onto the legs of the chair and roll up and down. I'm just looking for degrees of movement in my back, my shoulders, my belly, all of it soft, nothing pushing. And then I rest again. And I see what it feels like to rest. And then I'm going to focus on one side of my body. So I'm taking both hands just onto the left side of my body. And I'm using my hands only on my left side of my body, and body and chair. So I'm kind of pretending the body is the chair, and I'm just seeing where can I go, what can I feel, what can I touch, what can I access with my hands just on the left side of the chair, the left side of my body. How far behind me can I go? Keeping hands as much as I can in contact with something all the time. Everybody on a different chair will have a different experience. Twisting. Can I get both hands to the back leg of my chair? No, I can't. That's the answer to that. No, I cannot. Reaching, twisting, this constraint of having contact all the time. And I notice that I'm pushing my feet into the floor to help me. I just follow my own curiosity, what's interesting, and how am I touching myself? What does this side of my body need? Giving a little bit of a squidge to my legs. And then I let my arms hang again and I see how I feel. I compare the left and right sides of my body. I feel the left side of my body bigger, more voluminous, more present. That's just what effect that has had on me. And now I take my hands over to the right side and I use my own hands. I start on my face because I feel it's a nice way of kind of making contact with myself, my face, my head, my scalp. What happens? I'm just letting any movement in my body happen. My body, the only rule is that I stay sitting and I use my hands on the right hand side of my body in my chair. Otherwise, anything can happen. Anything can happen. Turning can happen, bending, twisting. Where can my hands go? Using chair legs, I'm pushing and pulling when I want. All the time I'm listening to my own comfort. I realise I don't respect my own constraint even because I wanted to stretch my arm in the air, so I just bring that arm back. I notice that for me, this side is harder to explore somehow. I just bring my hands back to something more proximal, my belly, my chest, my back, my throat. For me, it's harder to stay on this side and it's harder to stay focused on this side. It's not too surprising then that this is the side I chose second, or rather it's not the side I chose first. So I just accept that. And I explore where can my hands go. And I'm all the time listening to my own comfort. I'm all the time approaching my limits, approaching my boundaries, but softly and slowly, so I don't ever risk whacking into a boundary and hurting myself. I don't ever risk going too far. I'm just listening to what's possible, wriggling, exploring the right-hand side of life. Here we go, the last few moments. Where have my hands not been yet? Under the chair. Can I get both hands on the back chair leg? And then I just come back. And I rest in sitting and I close my eyes. And I feel, how do I feel now? And before coming out of sitting, I just notice what it's like to be vertical. Notice what effort it takes me to have what I would call that neutral posture. So I feel now if I completely try to relax when I'm sitting, for me personally, I don't round and slump anymore like I did at the beginning. Oh, a little bit. Just a little bit. In a different place, in a very different place. I come up to sitting in my most upright, as vertical as I can be, and I relax as much as possible, and I see what does that do for my posture, and I just explore posture in sitting in the softest way, seeing what does it feel like now compared to the beginning. And I get rid of my chair, I come to standing for a moment, and just before doing anything else, I just see what it feels like to stand. And I get rid of my chair. Lots of noises going on today. I get rid of my chair and I'm going to use my little floor space just to finish. And I want to come back to just standing for a moment and reaching my arms up. And I just want to feel, without thinking, how do I do this? How possible is it now to get my arms up and keep my posture more or less upright with no effort? I'm just testing like I did in sitting. And I come to lying on the floor. And I close my eyes and I just breathe. I notice my alignment. I'm still practicing this kind of global awareness, noticing what comes in and out of my attention, where my attention goes. And again, I start on my face. I bring my hands to my face and my scalp, and I'm just waking up my body now with my hands, my scalp, my hair, down my throat. I'm not trying to stay symmetrical. I'm just doing both sides at once, so I cross my arms over. I'm stroking down my arms. I'm trying to spread out my palms and give this amazing soft contact. I'm rubbing down my shoulders. I stand my feet so that my back can be a little easier on the ground, and I go down my chest, over my shoulders, down my ribs. I go up under my armpits and gently but firmly rubbing up under my armpits, the ribs under my armpits. I can feel the sides of my shoulder blades. I use my hands on the sides of my ribs. I squish my ribs around a little bit. I try to stay as relaxed as I can. I feel all of the jelly of my belly, my ribs. I move my ribs. I squidge my ribs. I get my hands down over my belly, down to my groin, my pelvis. I feel the structure of the pelvis, the way the ribs turn into the waist, the pelvis, the buttocks, both sides, pelvis, buttocks, groin, belly, the whole shape of the pelvis. And I just rest for a moment. I let my arms down. I see, how do I feel? I come back to my head, the crown of my head, my face. I go now more in the back of my body. I lift my head and I feel the back of my head, and I can feel that I need to push the back of my body into the ground to be able to feel the back of my neck. And I sit up a little bit, so I'm using my hands to try and touch the back of my body on both sides. And I'm rolling, I'm allowing myself to touch the back of my ribs. I can feel, of course, that it's effort to keep my head up. I'm basically in a curl up now, but I'm trying to stay as soft as I can and lengthen the back of my body as much as possible. And I'm taking my contact down my back. I bring my head back down and I lift my pelvis, and I bring both arms underneath my pelvis. And I'm just feeling that I can move my pelvis and explore the contact of my back of my hands with the back of my body. And I'm just wriggling and turning, or even maybe my palms, it depends on person to person. I'm using my palms. I'm not dictating anything about the shape of my body. My pelvis can move, my legs can move. I'm just trying to feel contact in the back of my body, my own touch in the back of my own body. Let my pelvis come down again. Let my back come down over my arms, and I wriggle, and I go back up to the back of my head. There's that bit that's so hard to reach. How can I get my arm up to that bit that's difficult to reach? And my shoulders. Any way possible, anything is possible. The intention is just exploring how can I make contact with the back of my own body. And then I let it go, and I rest my legs long, and I see how I feel. And I notice my contact with the floor changing. And I use my hands again, and I come to the front of my body, and I go, this time only down my left side. I go all the way down my left side. My feet are standing again. I'm going down this left side faster because I've done the torso and the neck. And now I use my hands down from my pelvis to my leg to get me up. I'm doing sit-ups, but my sit-ups are all focused around waking up my toes, my feet, My hands are strong, my arms are strong, everything is sort of thorough. My feet can come off the floor, my legs can wriggle and stretch, and I just come up and down, exploring how can I make contact with my left leg, any contact possible with my left leg, and the rest of my body just does whatever it needs. I'm using this contact to maybe get a little bit more sit-ups, maybe get a little bit more movement through the foot, through the leg. What can I do with my left leg? What contact is possible? All the time, how could I get softer? How could I make less effort, even though I'm relating to gravity in these different ways? Where is my weight against the floor? How can I release my jaw? Maybe could I do it with my leg on the floor, just sliding my arm along my leg and back down. I'm just looking for variations, and now I'm just sliding my hand all the way from my left foot, along my left leg, the left side of my belly, and my left side of my face, and up along the ground and back. And I'm just doing that a few times, rolling up and rolling down in different ways, in different angles. I'm not looking for what is correct, I'm looking for what's possible. And then I relax, I rest my body on the floor. And I come back and I do the right side, and I start on my right side of my face and my head. My hands are inviting movement. My hands are inviting movement of the flesh, of the bones. Flesh, arms, torso, down to my hip and pelvis and thigh and feet. And now, what can I do to get myself up and down, sliding my hands and rubbing and rolling and waking up and moving flesh and moving fascia and moving joints, focusing completely on the right side of my body, right side of my body. And it's not that the left side isn't doing anything, the left side is definitely active, but the left side is just doing what's possible. The left side is just obliging. The left side is only doing what it needs to do to allow me to explore with my hands the right side of my body. Right side of the body. Right side of the body. Right side of the body. I'm looking at it, I look at what my hands are doing. Use my head and face. And a few times, like I did on the left side, now I go with my leg long on the floor if possible, all the way up and all the way down. My body in as many different ways as I can manage, but basically rolling up, sitting up. Trying to get rid of as much effort as possible. Releasing my jaw, maintaining that global attention. That means I can only do what's possible. Maybe what's possible is just a little lean and then I come back and I just want to rest. Lean and come back. Maybe I want to stay down here and see what's possible, leaning forwards. Or maybe I want to challenge and stay somewhere here. How can I take my arms around the right side of my body where I'm just stuck in that difficult place? And I've got to push my pelvis into the floor. And I've got to try and relax my hips. And I'm just working through my center. But my focus is on the right hand side of my body. And my arms are lifting my head. And I'm coming all the way up and all the way down one more time. And then I'm releasing on the floor and resting. And I just do nothing and I see how I feel. And I notice my contact with the floor, my alignment, the length of my limbs, my own volume. And I bring my feet to standing. And again, I just sense my contact with the floor. With this global sense of awareness, How possible is it for me to release now, just to let go? Listening to the echo of the movements I've been doing. And then I come all the way up to standing. And I'm going to finish just in standing. Again with contact, hands on face, all the way down. And I'm just making contact all the way up and down my body so that my hands can go down to the floor, up my body, and staying symmetrical now. Staying symmetrical. And exploring different ways of coming up and down, different sequences. And I let my hands come all the way up, and I let my hands come off my body. And I just finish with exploring as many symmetrical ways as I can of coming into this tallest position with my arms above my head and going all the way down as small as I can. And I just let myself explore whatever speed, whatever pace, whatever alignment, coming up and down. Maybe I just want to melt, maybe I want to do something stronger and look at the alignment of my feet and toes. Turns out I want to do squats, so I'm doing squats. And I'm keeping my body upright, feeling the power from the floor. And I just melt. I want to contrast it and melt one last time. And I just make sure that I've done everything I want to do with this little symmetrical play. And then I stand for a moment with my eyes closed. And I just see now what it's like to be standing, what my posture is like. How much of myself can I sense all at once? How much can I spread my awareness out to take in everything? Knowing that taking in everything is thankfully impossible. And I just take a walk, sensing the contact of my feet with the ground. And I notice what it feels like to walk. I'm